Hello, everybody. Welcome along to the latest episode of Everywhere We Go, Kiddy Massive, Kidderminster Harriers fans podcast with me, Nick Hatton. Delighted to say we are going global today. We're going live to Sydney, Australia to speak with Joe Lolley, a man who made just 25 appearances for Harriers, scored 11 goals in that time. But it really was an explosive impact during his time at the club, making a huge leap from English universities, playing for Littleton to Harriers. And then, of course, if you're a Harriers fan, you'll know that he went on to play in the Premier League as well. So, Joe, hello. Many thanks for joining us.
Are you okay?
Yeah, really good. Really good. How are you? How is life in Australia?
Yeah, all good. Thank you. Evening over here, and yeah, just enjoying the life, and the weather's not bad as well, because I know it's not the best in England at the moment. Yeah, all good.
Yeah, it looks glorious over there. I'm sat just in front of a radiator that I put on at 6:30 this morning just to get the house warm, so I'm very jealous.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
nice to hear.
Yeah.
So things 20 degrees, so yeah. Pretty.
We'll talk about your life or your decision to move to Sydney in a minute, but let's talk about where it all began then. The first question always on this podcast is, what does Kidderminster Harriers mean to you?
Yeah, it means a lot, to be honest, because obviously it's my first route into professional football, and I guess they give me the platform to be where I am today, and give me the opportunity, and those was maybe 5 or 6 months, nothing more than that, but it was, I enjoyed those months so much, and there were some of my best memories from football was that 6 months. So yeah, it's always a place that will be in my heart, and hopefully one day I'll be able to come back, and yeah, in some capacity, hopefully.
Tell us about your journey there then, because you were Birmingham Academy, I think, doing my little bit of research. So how did you find yourself from Birmingham Academy to then catching the eye of Steve Guinan and Steve Burr, and then eventually signing for us?
Yeah, so I was at Birmingham City till I was sort of around about 16. Was released, or it was pretty strange. They didn't offer me a scholarship, but wanted me to still go and train there and things like that. But I did that for I think a few months, but I never really felt sort of appreciated, and I was doing sixth form on top of that, like a normal child, and I weren't enjoying it, so I sort of just left, and they never called back or sort of asked where I was or whatever. So ended quite, I guess, in a pretty strange way. And then from there, just went the route to, most kids, I guess, sixth form, and then up into uni. And I was just playing for my uni when I was put forward from, a guy at my uni put me forward through to trial for England universities. I think there was the Olympic Games for like the student Olympic Games into Kazan. I think was it 2013? Was it that summer I signed?
Yes, yeah, it was, yeah.
So that summer, so I was trialing for that, and the coach there was Steve Guinan, who was, so obviously I think he was first team coach at Kidderminster. And yeah, I think from there he obviously saw something. And I think Steve Burr and Gary Wild come to a game we played. I think it was like England v Scotland, and then yeah, I think I did well, and then they invited me to a trial in that summer, and then obviously from there, I guess the rest is history. I guess from there.
Did you know that they were watching you?
Yeah, so I think it was about April time, and I think it was Steve who told me, said, look, they're going to come and watch, and you obviously on the back of it, you might get a trial in the summer, or so. But it won't, I didn't really feel overly, too much pressure of it all, to be honest. I think when you're young, you don't really feel as much pressure or things like that. So yeah, I don't even think I scored. I don't even remember playing unbelievable or anything, but obviously they saw, I guess, enough to go, we'll offer a trial and see how he gets on. And yeah, so I think the wait was more probably nervous, because I sort of had to wait from April all the way up until sort of the mid-end of July, until the actual guest trial took place.
Yeah. Was there any doubt in your mind about accepting the trial? Because I think I heard you in a podcast recently say you weren't really chasing a career then at that point.
No, I wasn't, but it was more in a sense of I wasn't. I just didn't really ever consider it as like I'm really want to become once the opportunity there, I was like, oh, well, this is incredible. Like, this is a chance to become a footballer. But it wasn't something before that trial. I was thinking, oh, I really want to become a footballer. Like, I'm still trying to make it. It was, I was playing 5 or 6 divisions below the conference at the time. So it was never something I saw that was like, oh, it's realistic that I'm going to suddenly sign for Kidderminster or whatever. But yeah, so obviously as soon as they offered me the trial, I couldn't wait, to be honest. Probably affected my results at uni a little. Probably more focused on the football and being excited for that, to be honest.
Were you then in training then for a few days before that famous pre-season friendly, or was that friendly at Chasetown your sort of first taste of action in a Harriers shirt?
Yeah, I think I'd come back late because the Student Olympic Games. I hadn't come back until about the 16th of July. And even a little thing like that helped me because, I was at a camp that was almost 3 or 4 weeks of, properly training and probably just eating right and doing things that are actually sort of, first time ever on a professional basis, I guess. And that sort of probably put me in a good situation that when I went to Kidderminster, I was actually, first time in my life, I was fit enough because I think before that I was living like a student. So then I come back and I think I trained for maybe 3 or 4 days before that Chasetown game. I think I trained in that week, and then the Chasetown game happened. So it's the first proper friendly, and I'd had maybe 3 or 4 days, training beforehand.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the clip of Steve Burr talking about you. I think, is it true on your first day you rocked up eating a packet of crisps? That's what he's saying.
I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. I had no clue what was right, what's right. Like I was so oblivious to anything that was happening, to be honest. Yeah, so I think a lot of things have changed in the last 10 years. But yeah, I think I was very much a student still back then.
Tell us about the game then that changed your life. I don't think that's over-egging it too much, is it? That the second half you come on against Chasetown and you've said it once already, the rest is history.
Yeah, I actually still remember like warming up and little things like that at half time. And yeah, and I just remember just itching to get on, really. I think it had helped. I think we'd trained and I'd handled myself pretty well in training, and so I was, saying about being young and you're not fit, you haven't got any fear, you're just there and just want to just enjoy it and play football, and so I sort of went in with that mentality, really. I wasn't, it's just another game, I guess. And then, yeah, I think everything just went right for me that particular game. I think I scored a hat-trick in 15-20 minutes, and I think they're all pretty good goals.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever, getting too old now, too old to score too many hat-tricks, but yeah, I don't think I can score too many better hat-tricks than that. And yeah, it was sort of straight after they sort of spoke to me and said, look, we're going to offer you a contract, and yeah, sort of all become a reality pretty quickly.
Yes, doing the podcast with Steve, he was saying it was a case of getting you signed up ASAP. I think it wasn't a case of getting you bundled in the car and let's go and take you to Agborough to sign a contract, but he was pushing for Mark Serrell to get you pretty much signed straight away. So did you sign the same day?
I think it was the next morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, yeah, it was because at the start it was just meant to be sort of a 6-week trial and see how you do, and then I think I did sort of that particular game. Obviously, it did that well that I think, because I imagine there was other scouts there looking at actual other players that Kidderminster had. I think a few of the lads were doing quite well at the time and had some good players, and then so I think that suddenly after the game there's become a bit of interest from like league sides, but once I sort of said I was going to sign, I was always going to sign for Kidderminster, and it was pretty straightforward. I think just signed the next day, and there was no real negotiating on any contract. It was sort of just, oh yeah, I'm happy. Yeah, that's great. You're not really bothered about anything.
Yeah.
You just, that'll do, no problem.
I was going to say, how big a change in life then was it for you? You talk about obviously the student life within a case of what, a day, 48 hours, you're a professional footballer all of a sudden.
Yeah. I guess it was obviously strange. You live in a complete different life, but because it was almost, obviously it was in the, you're in the conference and whatever, that maybe obviously the levels of professionalism, they're always raising now. And, and 10 years ago, it was pretty straightforward. We went into training and we trained and we'd go out, and there wasn't, it wasn't crazy. Like, probably the step up to Huddersfield was when it like really became like, wow, like what is like in terms of everything, around the club. So, it was good, because obviously I'd still played at a lower lower down the leagues and stuff, and it just was like a lot better version of that, I guess. And the lads were great with me, and helped me and made things really easy. And I just enjoyed it, just being able to play football as a living and full time. I just love going in every day and playing football, and that always makes things easier.
Yeah, bizarrely, on the back of me putting out the Steve Burr clip talking about your mum got involved on Twitter. I don't know whether she's mentioned this or not, talking about how great, obviously, how the memories were and stuff. And I'd said that I've been chatting to the Sydney media team about getting this organised, and she was really happy about that. But she said that you were worried to a degree about training. Is that right?
I'm trying to think in what sense.
I don't know about probably maybe the physical demands as to whether you were.
Yeah.
I
don't think I was, at uni. I lived a very, as I sort of said to you, I didn't have the mentality of, I really want to make it. So, while I'm not a footballer, I need to be I'm in the gym. I need to get fitter because I need to play football, and that's what I want to do. And I didn't have that mindset that, you probably should have, and you see obviously a lot of people do have their dreams to make it. Where I was more just, I guess, coasting along in life, not really sure what path I was going to take, and then obviously going from that to full-time football, it was, I think the especially early doors, the first month, I picked up some like little injuries and struggled with sort of the intensity in training, and wasn't super fit or anything like that. So it was a pretty like shock to the system from the body perspective, and it was quite difficult in that sense. And but as I said, there was still that element of non-leagueness about it, where I don't think all the players were super well fit. I mean, there was we had some really good players and some really fit players as well, but we had the likes of
it's different levels, isn't it? Different levels.
Auburn, who maybe weren't naturally the fittest lads, so it never felt like you were massively not fit enough, where probably the jump to Huddersfield and everyone's fit and everyone's strong and quick, and that was when it become, I guess, the real big jump.
Yeah, so you miss the opening 2 games of the season, I presume, because of the niggles that you talk about. So you make your debut, you play 20 minutes in your first game, half an hour in game 2 in your Kidderminster career, and you're off the mark straight away.
Yeah, I think I was a striker as well at the start. Don't think many people remember that I actually started sort of as a striker, and sort of we just changed formation and sort of ended up playing wider. But yeah, I think it was against Chester towards the end of August, and yeah, I think at the start of the season he just didn't want to rush me in, and there'd been a lot of players who'd done really well for the club as well, and I think you could only have 5 subs then, and there was a lot of good players, and I think he was just worried about rushing me in too early. And but yeah, I think I was training quite well, and I was lucky enough. Within a couple of games, I got the chance from the bench, and yeah, I actually remember the goal pretty well, and just cutting in and putting it in the far post. And yeah, I think from that it gives you a lot of confidence that like sort of can play at the level, and you're ready to play. And yeah, it was a good moment.
Yeah, I was going to say, how important was it to get off the mark as quickly as you did?
Yeah, as I say, just for the confidence and just to make you feel like, oh, okay, I can compete at this level, and I can play. And yeah, I think I might have even started the next game, so I'm not 100. I think we played Luton the next game, and I started, so we were pretty quick from there to starting. But yeah, it was just always good for the confidence, especially when you are a striker or forward player, to get an early goal, sort of just allows you to just feed off that and keep going.
Yeah, and that goal was a sign of what was to come, because it became your trademark, didn't it? On the cutting in from the right and then firing in from your left. I think your most famous, probably Harriers goal, apart from the Peterborough goal, was the one against Halifax, which was I think it was a brilliant crossfield ball from Lee Tomlin, wasn't it? And then took it down brilliantly, and then cut inside again and just bent it top corner with your left foot past Matt Glennon, who I know pretty well, and I often remind him of you scoring from distance against him. To score a goal like that so early into your career at Agborough as well, what does that mean?
Yeah, again, that was a real big moment, because obviously it was I think to score a goal like that, which was probably one of the best I've scored in my career.
Lee Fowler, by the way, not Lee Tomlin. Sorry.
Yeah. It just gives you the confidence that you, and I think that game itself, I'd played really well, and I think that was the first game where I'd been playing. I think I'd played some games, and I think that might have been my second start, maybe, or you're going to probably know.
It was very early on anyway, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'd played some games, and you're thinking, yeah, I can compete at that level, but that was probably the first game where I really played well and caused, I think, a lot of problems. And I sort of felt, oh, okay, well, I can play really well at this level. Like I can, I'm fine, and that gave me a lot of confidence. And yeah, as I said, to score a goal like that, you're always buzzing off that, and you just, I'll always remember that goal.
Yeah, and you were on a run then of what, 7 goals in 16 appearances from then on. Is that just purely a case of youthful exuberance and confidence playing a big part there?
Yeah, and to be fair, the manager as well, he, very much wanted, for me to just stay high and wide, and not. I always thought I always worked hard and always run around and did my bit, but he also wanted me to, I guess, cheat a little bit, and when I went forward to stay on the counter and be a threat. And he sort of played me in a position that was perfect, really. I was just young and quick, and I could just run on the counter and dribble the ball up the pitch and things like that. So he put me in a position where I could sort of fully use all my best abilities. So that helped massively. And as you say, when you're young and you got the confidence from everyone and the manager and the players, you sort of just want to go out and enjoy yourself and express yourself.
Yeah, and then we started that cup run, which ultimately culminated in the game at Sunderland. But I think you got a goal away against Sutton in the cup, and then probably one of my favourite Harriers games actually was the cup game against Newport at home, which was a brilliant result. 4-2 to us, obviously 4-0 up in the second half. But I think you might have got 2 assists in that game as well. We had a brilliant goal from Michael Gash as well. It felt like everything was really falling into place. So what was it like in that game, but also what was it like being part of that team where it just felt all of the parts of the jigsaw were coming together?
Yeah, I do remember that game, and we just obviously they were league above, and we sort of just destroyed them in the first half especially. And yeah, I think on our day we were brilliant to watch. And I think especially at Agborough, we scored a lot of goals at home. We were very open, very attacking, and we sort of let teams. We wanted the game to become open, and stretched and pretty, and sort of just we'll just go toe to toe with teams, and especially at home we used to come out on top. And I think there's a lot of games where we scored quite a number of goals, and so it's pretty exciting. And I think when we were in sort of full flow as well, we had a really good team, a lot of pretty exciting players. So yeah, I remember that, and that also gave us a lot of confidence going into the next round, that we've already beat a league team, and I guess why not again.
Yeah, and they weren't scrappy goals, were they? All the goals that we scored weren't scrappy goals from what I can remember, particularly that Newport game. Obviously, the Michael Gash goal in the first half and his free kick, the ball that you played through for Callum, I think for the third goal as well. They were really attractive goals to watch, and that was just the trademark of a Steve Burr side, wasn't it?
Yeah, and to be fair, we had a lot of really good footballers. I mean, people like Gashi. I mean, technically he was so good and he held the ball up so well, but with his feet as well, he had great touch and great feet. And yeah, we had people like Callum, and I remember Kyle Storer, Jack Byrne. They're all Lee Fowler. All technically very very good footballers who could handle the ball really well. And I guess we were set up to play really good football. And I enjoyed playing with those players because they were all good midfielders who want to get on the ball and play. And then people like Gashi always wants to play little 1-2s, and you can use him as a target. I probably should have passed to him a lot more than I probably didn't pass to him as much as he would have liked. I just was young and wanted to dribble around the pitch with the ball all the time. Then the likes of Amari Morgan Smith and Anthony Melbourne, everyone was, we just had a very good technical team. And I think when we got it right, and when we were a very very difficult team to play against.
And then weirdly, you went on a run without scoring in your next 7. Was that a blip? Were you aware of a run of games where you didn't score, or were you playing well and just not finding the back of the net?
Good question. I'm not sure.
It was a while ago. Don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it'd be interesting to look, because if I saw like the run of games, I almost can remember I'd played well there. I don't play well there.
Yeah.
So there was I think there was a goal away at Macclesfield that might have been in. I scored and it got disallowed.
Yeah,
I don't know whether that could have been potentially in the run. I'll be honest, it's hard to remember.
No, don't worry.
The games. It probably did wear on my mind because I'm an attacking player, and I probably was, itching to get a goal and things like that. But also, as long as I felt like I played well and the team were winning, I was always pretty happy as well. So, I'll be honest, right this second, I can't recall how I'd have felt, but I know, like, with the fixtures, how I'd have probably felt at the time and whatnot. But I remember being on the bench at Chester away. That might have been, I think I was on the bench for one game and he brought me on and I come on and played really well. So that might have been within that run because I wasn't usually on the bench.
Yeah, I don't remember a period where we're thinking, oh, Joe's not playing very well or anything like that. I think it was just one of those things, isn't it? Sometimes it just happens like that. And obviously the cup run continued. Peterborough at home. What can you remember of that game? The only thing I can remember of that game is just that ridiculous goal-mouth scramble that sort of kept us in it and secured that replay.
Yeah, similar, to be honest. I remember like an early chance. I think like I played a right foot, maybe cross that got deflected over the bar or something. And I remember starting the game really well and thinking, oh, this is just like a normal game, because obviously you go into them games and you're thinking, well, this is going to be a big step up and whatever. And I remember feeling pretty comfortable early on, and then I think as the game went on, obviously they started to dominate and create a bit more chances, and we were probably hanging on a little bit more. But yeah, then I remember the goalmouth scramble and that. Yeah, as you said, I mean that was all particularly I remember. But also remember, I think feeling like it was a pretty hard-earned draw. They hadn't done a crazy amount. They hadn't created a crazy amount of chances, and probably felt like, oh, maybe that's probably we've gone as far as we can. We've drew. We'll enjoy the away tie there. They'll probably step it up, and it'll be difficult. But but yeah, didn't work out like that.
No,
Worked
no.
out. Yeah.
And then on the Monday, certainly out of nowhere from my point of view, from the outside looking in, Steve Burr gets the boot, which, well, you'll know anyway that fans felt it was a ridiculous decision. Being in the camp, what was it like when that news came through?
Yeah, obviously, I'm sure I'm sure it's been talked about. Obviously, with yourself, and you've done the interviews and whatnot. Yeah, I think just remember the weeks leading up to it. There was like things happening behind the scenes that were.
Yeah, because we'd had the
that
Forest
I
Green. Yeah, the Forest Green situation. Anyway, Steve's spoken about that, and form was patchy, but it wasn't terrible. I always seem to remember, so that's why it came as a shock, really, especially on the back of getting that draw against Peterborough.
Yeah. I mean, the players, we were all happy and behind it. I think, and behind Stephen, we enjoyed. As I said, I mean, we played really good football, and we were excited to watch, and we all enjoyed it. So yeah, I think it was a surprise, but it also, I guess, wasn't a surprise in the manner, in the fact that it had sort of been brewing, I think, for that few weeks or a month or whatever, and with the Forest Green situation, and there was a lot of talk behind it. Oh, like, what's happening? We don't know, and there's always rumours of things and stuff, and so I guess from that perspective, I don't recall it being like. I think when it happened, it was like, oh, it's actually happened, but obviously it wasn't something like a bolt out of the blue or anything like that. Yes.
How disappointing was that for you then? Because Steve Burr is obviously the man who gave you big opportunity.
Yeah, it was, because I guess it's the first time also you've got that uncertainty of you don't know who the next person coming in. And as I said, I mean, he was always great with me and just let me sort of enjoy my football and give me a lot of confidence, and was a big person in my career, especially in the early stages. So yeah, it wasn't nice when he went, but I've learned in football as well over 10 years that football's a lot of things happen in football, and it moves on pretty quickly.
Yeah, you've still got a good relationship with Steve, haven't you? I think I've seen a few selfies on Steve's Twitter of you playing golf from time to time.
Yeah, we was actually meant to play before I'd come out to here, but obviously we didn't in the end get that chance to play. But we'd played, I think, in the year previous, and I just remember him eagling the first hole in my home course. So yeah, that was we were playing against each other as well. So I didn't enjoy it, but yeah, he was a really really good guy, and yeah, I still enjoy seeing him and speaking to him when I can.
Yeah, I was going to ask you who's the better golfer, but I think you've already answered that question.
Yeah, he is. He's had a lot more years of experience. So.
So Steve goes, Andy Thorne comes in, again, from the outside looking in, very different in terms of personality, seemingly. How was that? Because again, as a fan, and with Steve Burr being the legend that he is, I think probably that counted against Andy Thorne from day one, really. As a player, how did you find him?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't around for a great deal of time. I mean, it might have been. I mean, actually, the training was. The training was. I remember the training being pretty good. The first, I think I was only there for a week, maybe.
2 games you played.
2 games, but I remember the training being really good. Steve was a bit more, I'd say, like old school and like that sort of non-league, and where I think Andy would come from more of a professional background and was a little bit more. His approach, I guess, was a bit more professional. You could tell he'd come from and wanted to implement probably more ideas, where Steve was a lot more of like, go out and express yourself, and training was probably a bit more, free and enjoy, where I guess Andy wanted to come in and sort of put his stamp on things. And but for the week, he come across a decent guy, Didn't yeah, I think a lot of the players had such a good relationship with Steve. It was always going to be difficult for the next person to come in and really, I guess, stamp their authority on things. And so yeah, it's hard to comment because I was only there for such a short time with him, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it started well on the pitch for Andy Thorne. It was a 3-0 win against Salisbury. You get your first hat-trick, your only hat-trick in Harriers colours as well. So on the pitch, it was a great start. And for you, was it almost like a farewell to a degree as well? How much were you aware of the interest that was sort of around you at that time?
Yeah, I think it was. I think I knew sort of mid to end of December that it was probably likely I was going to be leaving. I think it was around. I think around the Grimsby game, I knew Huddersfield were. Huddersfield were going to be coming in January, and things were going to happen. And then Peterborough tried to sign me, and then I think sort of the last few days, I think there was another few clubs coming in. I think like Swansea and Burnley as well, Wigan, and there was quite a lot. But Huddersfield, because they'd shown their interest quite early, and it was all. I think it was sort of just after the Grimsby game, so whenever that would have been, it was around then when it was sort of like, oh, realistically, I'm probably going to go to Huddersfield. So yeah, I sort of knew within probably maybe 3 or 4 weeks before I actually left that I was going, and then it was like that week leading up to this Salisbury and Peterborough game. That was when I was meant to actually leave before those 2 games.
Okay.
Huddersfield wanted me to go before those 2 games, and sort of the club said, no, we want him to play those 2 games. Like, we need him to play those 2 games. Yeah. No, I wanted to play those 2 games. Well, more obviously the Peterborough game I wanted to play. Obviously the Salisbury game was there as well, so I was like, I obviously want to play. So I ended up staying for those 2 days, but I knew I was going the next day. So yeah, it was like I almost knew that build up that week I was leaving. And yeah, but it worked out quite well because obviously scored the hat-trick and then the winning goal in the last 2 games. So it was sort of, it worked out so well. I mean, to leave on those memories, pretty amazing.
Yeah, your farewell at Agborough was that hat-trick, as I say, 2 penalties in that game. I've watched the goals back. I mean, I'm no body language expert, but I'm reckoning that Michael Gash wasn't happy that you took those 2 penalties, particularly the first one. His arms are up in the air a little bit. I think he's a little bit wondering why you're taking that spot kick. And I can see him having a bit of a chat with Carl Storer, who was the captain at that point. So would you basically taken it off him?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm not sure why I took the penalties myself. I'm trying to think. Did we? I don't know if we had many penalties maybe that season, or
I can't remember. But yeah, Gashy was always a penalty taker.
Yeah, so I think maybe I'd won the second one, or
you'd won the first. Yeah, you'd won the first.
Yeah, sorry. The second goal. So the first penalty, I must have won it and just picked the ball up and like gone, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Because obviously I wouldn't have gone over and took the ball if it was like if he had it or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I must admit, I do remember thinking that. I think in recent years, like, I wonder why I took those penalties, because I don't remember like a designated penalty take. But then I think after they scored the first one, then obviously you for the hat-trick.
Yeah. So then obviously Agborough, it's the best farewell. We didn't know it at the time that it was your final appearance at Agborough, but then obviously the cup replay away at Peterborough. How were the squad feeling at that point heading down there?
Yeah, do you know what? I've got no memory of that. I've got the memory of the game and moments in the game, but forget you have to actually travel there and start. Yeah, I can't remember what the feeling was, to be honest. Yeah, I'm going to be honest with that. I can't even remember the journey down there.
Yeah.
I think there was so much that happened, obviously within the game and after the game and those next few days that sort of moment, I guess, was a bit of a blur to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I haven't got much memory of before the game. I can't even remember if we stayed in the hotel or just drove on the day. I think we drove on the day.
You had a lot going on. Don't worry, Joe. You had a lot going on
Yeah.
at that point. Talk us through the game then, if you can remember, because obviously Peterborough took the lead with that sort of fluky goal from the right hand side, that ball in, which sort of went over the head of Danny Lewis. Michael Gash started and finished the move to bring us level, and then we go 2-1 up. I think you make a run on the right and feed in Jack, and it's a good finish from him. 2-2 with that late penalty from them, and then you do the business right yourself in Harriers history once again, and it's the perfect way to finish your career.
Yeah. It's funny because I always felt like I didn't play very well. I think because of the fitness side of things, I wasn't ever the fittest. I always felt like I played pretty crap on a Tuesday for Kidderminster. I bet my goal record, I bet most of my goals are scored on a weekend.
And at home.
And at home, because I think when I used to play on the Tuesday, I always used to feel tired and a bit leggy, and I probably wasn't recovering right and things like that. I more down to just no idea what it was like to recover and things like that and do the right thing. So, and I remember wearing new boots, and actually I remember getting like pins and needles in the game and not feeling actually that great. And I don't think I had a very good first half at all, to be honest. And then, I think I just did two really good things. And one was setting up the goal and one was scoring the goal. I don't particularly remember doing too much else. And but I remember obviously those moments really specifically, and like I could sort of replay them in my head. And just the goals that we score. I mean, especially Gash's goal where he pings out wide and the ball in, and then great header. And we was always in the game, we was always fighting, and we knew it'd be difficult, but as we said, we actually did have really good players, and especially going forward could hurt teams. So I think we always had confidence that we could score goals, and thankfully we got the job done. It was a pretty incredible win.
Yeah, and the best way to say farewell, because you were a Huddersfield player the next day.
Yeah. So I remember just leaving that night, driving up to Huddersfield straight after the game. It was obviously nice to leave the lads on a high and on such a positive note, and be in the dressing room when all that happened and sort of say goodbye and good luck to everyone. And it was a nice. I mean, it couldn't have ended any better.
Yeah. So you're a championship player. I've got written down here. So if I'd have said to Joe Lolley in June 2013, when you were a student, that 7 months later you'd be a player in the Championship, what would you have said to me?
Yeah, I wouldn't have had a clue what you were talking about. I honestly, I was just happy to be playing full-time football for Kidderminster and thinking, if I can do this for a couple of years, that would be great. Saves me getting a proper job, and then. To be where I was in sort of 7 months' time was pretty crazy. And then that's when the step up sort of felt the big step up then.
So you moved to Huddersfield then, and you mentioned the step up. I know Canalside pretty well. It's a great facility, isn't it? Is it like do you go in sort of wide-eyed and sort of amazed at what's available to you all of a sudden?
Yeah, it was more like that, going in and I guess all the facilities. I mean, it's grown a lot, especially in the time I was there, because when I first went there, the actual gym was still public use, so the players and the public were in the gym and stuff like that. So there was still that element that it wasn't, I guess, like crazy, because we were getting changed in like porter cabins. They were doing work to the training ground, so there was still a lot of. It probably wasn't the biggest championship. Well, it wasn't the biggest championship club at the time, and so I mean, off the pitch, to be honest, the facilities grew a lot when I was there to really, really top facilities. But I think when I joined, they weren't incredible, but it was I think like all the on the pitch and the expectations of being a footballer and what that means and how to conduct yourself and eating the right things, and just the complete mentality shift of You know, Kidderminster still felt like I was playing with a lot of local lads who are like more like your mates.
Yeah.
They still had that sense of that real, like, I was playing at a high non-league level,
Yeah.
and not much like I'm playing at a real professional. So that step was I think the mentality shift was massive, and as I sort of alluded to in terms of like the fitness and what you need to do to make it as a professional.
Yeah. How was your first training session then? How was it? A blur?
Yeah, I think I still had that youthful. I think I still remember. I think I still trained pretty well, and I was. It'd be really interesting to listen to other lads who maybe when I signed and what they thought, how I trained and stuff. It'd be interesting to see what they remembered of me. But I think I always trained well and always felt from a football level I didn't feel miles apart from it. I just felt maybe fitness wise and things like that. I was a little bit behind. And I had a lot of confidence going from Kidderminster and scoring goals and doing really well. And I was quite disappointed, I think, because I weren't playing as many minutes as I actually wanted when I signed. Yeah, it would have been interesting had I probably been given more, maybe of an opportunity when I first signed. How I'd have done.
Yeah, 6 appearances I've got written down. I think in your first season with Huddersfield, or your first half season anyway. I mean, talk about a baptism of fire for your debut. For people who don't know and have never been to Ellen Road, it is a ridiculous stadium, isn't it? As from an atmosphere point of view, it's an incredible place. So to make your debut there in what was a heavy defeat, wasn't it, for Huddersfield at that point? I mean, I've called it a baptism of fire. Was it? Did you see it that way?
Uh, I think I just remember just wanting to play and get on, and I don't think I remember being too frustrated. I think I just wanted to, I'd been waiting and to get some games, and I'll just bring me on. I just wanted to get the ball and try and do stuff and just enjoy it. I do remember like the atmosphere, and obviously it's a local derby, so it wasn't particularly like a great memory from a team perspective, but I remember individually I remember it being a nice moment and just being able to to say I played in the championship, and it was as you say, such a great stadium as well, and such a to play away at a big club. It actually goes down as a good memory, despite the fact we got battered on the day.
Yeah, and if ever there was a sort of a marker to sort of illustrate the difference between National League football and Championship football, starting away at Ellen Road, is that, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. I think even I think maybe Steve. I can't remember who was left. I think it might have been Stephen Warnock left back.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah.
So like against someone who had a really good career and was obviously coming towards the end of his career, but had a great career and played at such a top level, and that's sort of my direct opponent. So it was a big sort of step up. But yeah, I do remember just not playing with too much fear and being bothered by it all, and I was just that desperate to play. I don't think I really cared too much about what was happening, and I just wanted to get on the pitch.
Yeah, and you finished that season, as you say, game 6. I think it was your first start, wasn't it, away at Watford? Your first goal in the Championship. I think, did you get 2 assists as well in that game as well? It was a perfect way to end the season, anyway. I think.
Yeah, it was I think a goal, an assist, and I sort of was like involved in another. I wouldn't call it debatable to call it an assist, but I guess I'll take it. Yeah, I think that's what frustrated me, because I played that game and Watford, I think they just missed out on the playoffs, and obviously they were a very good team. I think they got promoted the year after that, and I just played really well that day. That was my first start, and I felt really comfortable, and as I said, played really well. One of my probably better games for Huddersfield, and it was probably, I guess, a bit more frustrating that it was it sort of took that long. To get that game. I think when I signed, we actually were in a good position. Then we sort of went on a really poor run of results and end up in like a relegation battle. That I think we beat Yeovil and we were safe within, a game or two of the season. Maybe had the season panned out a little bit different, I might have got more opportunities. I think he was a bit worried about risking me as a young player, but yeah, it would have been interesting had maybe I'd gone from Kidderminster and just sort of been thrown into the fire, and I think I would have handled it, pretty well. And so yeah, but yeah, it was a good debut and one to I definitely remember, coming out, especially going into the, we had obviously a season break in the summer, going into the just being a lot of confidence going into that summer, feeling okay, well, that's my first start, I've scored, I've got an assist, I'm confident going into the next year.
Yeah, which started really weirdly, didn't it, from a Huddersfield point of view, because it was Bournemouth at home, wasn't it, on the opening day? I was there for that one for Radio Leeds. 4-0 defeat. It was a bit of a disaster of performance, wasn't it? And then Mark Robins becomes the first manager to go that season on the opening day. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I think he just resigned. Just straight after the game, and that was obviously a massive shock. Obviously, it was a terrible game, but obviously it was just the first game of the season, and then it was just just gone after the first game was a pretty wild start to the season.
Yeah. And Chris Powell comes in, isn't he? Chris Powell comes in as his replacement. How was he for you? Sort of looking at the stats, I think you obviously got more game time than you did in the previous season. A few goals as well, but was it one of frustration for you in terms of maybe the number of starts that you got?
Yeah, I think he was pretty pragmatic, pretty pragmatic coach, and I don't think he had for whatever reason he just. To be fair, we had Sean Scannell on the right, who was doing really well at the time and playing really well. And yeah, I think I don't know. I don't really know why I didn't get the minutes I would have liked, but yeah, I used to just sometimes come on for 5 minutes here and there and things like that. And it's hard to also, because when you're getting such limited time, you're coming on the pitch and you're trying to do stuff and you're trying to show that you should be playing, but you're probably then not really playing your natural game, and it's hard to build into anything. And it was just frustrating, to be honest, to not be given more starts and more game time, because obviously I sort of felt like I could easily play at that level. I just needed to play regularly. It was just I remember that probably being some of my worst times, I think, in football, because I was sort of just didn't know where it was all going, and never felt like I was going to get a game, but then they wouldn't let me go on loan because I was always on the bench, and so it was just a pretty crap time, I'd say.
But you did go on loan then, didn't you? I think the start of the next season, obviously under Chris Powell, still you spent some time at Scunthorpe. So was that you driving that just to get some game time?
Yeah, I just wanted to go out and play some games, and it was funny how that worked as well, because I think I played the first game. I think I played pretty well. Then the second game, I thought I played okay. I think I remember playing all right, nothing great, but we won 1-0 and I got the assist for the goal. And I remember like the lads sort of, being like, saying positive things to me and being like, and you're starting to get that confidence back, because I hadn't played regularly for sort of almost, I guess, like 18 months. And then I just remember we played away the next game, and it was Mark Robins again, who obviously sort of said, we've been lost the last, say, 6 away or something, a bad run of form away. Going to just go with, something different away from home, try and keep it tight, whatever. And we end up winning the game. And then I think we won like the next three or four or something. And I didn't end up playing for, so I just remember coming off the bench here or there, or playing the next 3 or 4, not playing those 3 or 4 games. And then at that point I was thinking, I can't even get a game in League One. I was on loan. So then I was a bit like, what's going to happen?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you went back obviously to Huddersfield. Chris Powell didn't last for much longer after that, did he? Mark Lillis is in charge for a couple of games, and then David Wagner comes in. I mean, I've written down here. I mean, would you say that he saved you to a degree, David Wagner? Because it was the start of a brilliant time for Huddersfield and a great time for you, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I think he just, he come in and just, I think he just give a clean slate, to everyone, and I think wanted to bed in maybe more younger players and come in with a sort of clear idea and philosophy, and the was especially at front foot and attacking, and to really go at opponents and have no fear of and I think I suited that mentality, and I just wanted to play and I just wanted to learn, and yeah, he sort of I didn't start the first game, but I think I started the next game against Middlesbrough at home and played really well, and yeah, from there I think I just continued to play pretty much every game from there, and I always had the confidence. He always gave me a lot of confidence to play, and again, it was, to be honest, it was my probably shins in the end that sort of stopped me really progressing, I think, a lot under David Wagner, because I think it had probably not been for the injury problems that I had, I think I could have gone on and sort of really progressed probably quicker than maybe I did.
Yeah, because obviously it was the following season, which was a promotion season, and you mentioned the injuries there. I mean, how much do you think you could have played? I mean, you probably answered it actually. And do you feel you could have played an even bigger part than you did in that promotion season? Because, as you say, the injuries sort of made it a bit stop-start from what I can remember in that campaign. So how frustrating was that to have those injuries at a time when the side that you're playing for, are going as well as they did?
Yeah, really big. I think it was Dad Wagner's first season. It was about February when I started getting sort of my bad shin problems, and we were just managing the games. I was playing a lot of games at 50, 60%, and he always just kept playing me as well. Like, there's probably times where I should have just been like, look, I need a rest or whatever, and but I think at the time I was playing really well, and I fitted into what he wanted, and I sort of just kept playing through it. And then I thought, oh well, obviously got the summer break, and then we come back in the next season, and hopefully things are just sort of cleared up. And then even that pre-season, I was just getting, those games getting so much pain, and even the first the first 3 league games, I think it was, I was Newcastle, and I was playing through a lot of pain, and then I broke my foot against Villa, and then when I come back, the sort of end of January, I had injections into my shins, which I should have obviously done. Looking back now, had I done that maybe when I broke my foot and sort of just done it all at the same time, but I sort of come back, started training again, then felt my shins, and then got the injection, and the injections, from what I've learned, because I've had them twice now, they take a long time to recover, and once I had them, I was rubbish. I was like so bad at football. I just couldn't. Once I have them, I sort of can't control. Like, I lose sort of a lot of sensitivity and control in my feet, and I sort of only learned that over the years, I guess. But at the time, it was all mystifying because the pain had gone, but I was just wondering why suddenly I couldn't move my feet quick. I couldn't control the ball. I couldn't, and I was. So yeah, that season become a bit of a write-off, because even when I'd come back, he was rushing me back to be involved, and I remember breaking my foot. I was out for 5 months. I think I'd only trained for like a week, and I was on the bench. I was coming on for 30, 40 minutes, and it was like straight back into it, because I think he loved me, to be honest. He had so much confidence in me, and then that just slowly waned as the season went on, and every time I come on, I just weren't really playing well at all, and he just started to trust other players, which I didn't blame him really, to be honest. But it was hard to figure out at the time why it was happening and stuff like that. So, yeah, it was pretty frustrating. That year was pretty frustrating, to be honest, because I felt like I started the season in the team. I felt like I could have been a really big part of something special.
Were you fearing for your career then at that point?
Yeah, a little bit, because it just wasn't something that was getting sorted with, with my shins, and then the confidence starts to go because you're not sure why. But then we had the summer, and obviously we're in the Premier League, and so I expected to leave at that point. But I think I just remember training quite well. I think I'm doing quite well in pre-season, and he was sort of like, "Oh no, sort of stay around and let's just see how it goes." Into the Premier League, and then so yeah, like sort of stuck at it a little, and yeah, I mean it was the right decision in the end, because I've obviously got a moment from that, scoring a goal in the Premier League, that sort of stays with me forever. So yeah, I'm glad I did stay anyway for the 6 months. It worked out pretty well.
Yeah, it was a ridiculous start, wasn't it, for Huddersfield in the Premier League, that for their first season. Obviously, the win away at Crystal Palace, and were Town top, I think, for like maybe a couple of hours, possibly. I think at the start of the season, it was a crazy ride for Town fans, wasn't it? For you though, as you say, sort of a few minutes here, a few minutes there, was the writing on the wall, do you think, for you at that point? Obviously, it ended well in terms of the West Ham goal, but were you looking sort of for a way out then?
Yeah, it didn't help. I think what we played a cup game against Crystal Palace. I think it was like the third round of the cup or whatever, and I think I played the second round against Rotherham and played really well, and then the third round against Crystal Palace, and I think it was like, oh, this is a good test because it's Premier League opposition. And I'd been ill for like 2 days before the game, not slept, not ate, not like, and it was quite demanding, like the manager, and I had full respect for him. I think he was brilliant, but it would have been hard to be like, look, I'm not I feel horrendous, I can't play. I think he would have almost took that quite like as if you don't want to play.
Yeah.
So you sort of soldier on, and I remember I was pretty crap in that game, but I had no energy, and that was a good chance to sort of, had I played well in that game, for him to go, oh, okay, well, he can play at this level. So that sort of knocked me down the pecking order a little. And then, then I had to wait. But, I started slowly getting myself back some appearances towards the end of December and January. I actually played all my football literally just before I left. And, to be honest, I didn't enjoy the dressing room. We'd sold a lot of players. A lot of players had left who I was close with as friends, and the people inside the dressing room, I didn't really get on with too well, and I didn't enjoy the day to day. So just as much football decision, it was personally, I didn't enjoy going in every day. So from that perspective, I wanted to leave as well, probably more than anything.
Yeah, it felt like a different club. I remember obviously all the excitement of the promotion, but all of a sudden, every signing was a record transfer, wasn't it? Because of the money involved, and as you say, the personnel were quite different. I think Nahki Wells didn't play for Town in the Premier League, did he? I don't think. I think his last kick was in that penalty shootout, wasn't it? I think for Town. I think then he moved on, obviously. So the personnel were very different. How difficult then is it if you could be the best footballer in the world, but if you're not getting on with other teammates, then it's not going to work, is it?
No, I mean, obviously they did end up staying up, but I think it almost ended with a little bit of a whimper and a bit of a stayed on into next season. I think just Mark Hudson went from Mark Hudson was a great captain, and he went from player to coach. So he sort of transitioned away from the dressing room. People like Nahki, who were like a big influence in the dressing room. He left. you know, there's a lot of other good lads, even if maybe they weren't playing as much, but like Jack Payne, who was, you know, good involvement in the dressing room, and Michael Heffley he'd suffered a pretty bad injury early on in the season, so he was abroad I think doing rehab in another country, and he was really good at sort of mixing you know, where before it was a lot of English lads, and then we had a lot of German lads, but they'd all get involved, and Hef was a good part in terms of being that centerpiece around, you know, both groups, I guess. And then the next season, it turned into the leaders of the group, so to speak, weren't the best. They didn't integrate people very well at all. And then, you know, as you say, we had a lot of signings who they just weren't coming into anything you know, I think if you got a big, real group of core players there and players sign, suddenly they have to be involved in that, you know, that group and straight into that, like, you know, core group, and where there just wasn't anything there. So it just become very individual and I'd say very cliquey. And it wasn't, it's probably the worst dressing room I've been involved in, to be honest. So, I mean, they did well to stay up. And yeah, but then I think it sort of showed as, you know, the next year. I think it was always going to end badly, to be honest.
Let's talk about your West Ham goal then. I mean, the game didn't start brilliantly for you, did you? I think Jonas Lossell sort of put you in trouble, didn't he, for West Ham's opener? I think you showed for the ball, but probably shouldn't have given it to you, because he saw the bigger picture probably better than you. Yeah,
it was one of them. So I was playing as a 10 in that game, and it was our job was to show for the ball and give an option, but I think 90% of the time he'd clip it into the striker, or you know, we were there just to bring people on for him to go a bit longer and create spaces. And I think, you know, he gave it me, and I wasn't quite expecting it. And I tried to like wriggle out of the situation, and I should have done better. And then I think I can't remember, Noble or whoever nicked the ball off me and scored and wanted the ground to swallow me up. But I've been working with a sports psychologist, I think, going into that season, and that helped me a lot, because it sort of gave me, you know, instead of just wanting to get off the pitch, I guess, and sort of just put my head down, I sort of went the other way and was desperate to make amends, and really sort of like lifted myself, and I think it was like almost like good karma in terms of the attitude I took to the situation that had happened, and then to get the goal was, you know, was amazing, really.
Yeah, and probably written in the stars that the manner of the goal was probably what you were known for at Harriers as well, cutting in from the right hand side, little sort of feint and bend it into the far corner. It was a great goal.
Yeah, thank you. It was probably my favourite goal, really. Just the fact, you know, the significance of it, and and you know, it was a good goal. You know, at least, you know, I joke about, you know, with mates and stuff, and, you know, I've scored in the Premier League and stuff, and I'm happy it's a good goal, because it's always at least one to look back on and be like, it weren't just like a deflected crap goal. It was actually a good goal, and it was nice to score that, and I remember just being very relieved and happy. And I think it was my last game for the club as well, so it was or last league game maybe, or something along those lines. So it's a nice way to go. Always seem to end on a goal.
I think your last one was against Birmingham, wasn't it? I think it was a cup game, I seem to remember. And if I'm right, anyway, that I think it was a 1-1 draw, wasn't it? I think there was a chance that fell to you late on, I think, which got scuffed for whatever reason. So that was your last game for Town. But were you actively looking to get out at that point? And you sort of chatted with the club and said, look, I need to get away?
Yeah, I remember being really close to signing for Millwall. I think I'd spoken to them in December, because I weren't getting games at that point, and it was obviously I just weren't really in the squads, or I was maybe on the bench here or there, and I didn't enjoy it whatsoever. And I was meant to be signing for Millwall, but then sort of around Christmas I actually started coming off the bench and getting 20, 30 minutes and doing quite well, and then obviously then from there got a few starts, and that sort of move, it was like, well, I had to sort of say to them, well, look, we're going to have to give it a bit of time and whatnot, and see what happens. And it was Millwall, and I think it was Sheffield Wednesday at the time, and it sort of just worked out. I think Warburton had been sacked from Nottingham Forest around mid-January, 20th of January, around then, and Karanka had been given. I played really well against Borough in the past, and I just remember they were signing, I think, anyone and everyone, to be honest. And I remember just obviously getting a call a few days before, and them saying, "Yeah, we want to sign you or whatever." And I was desperate to leave at that point. And just managing to, and it was great because it was only an hour from home and things like that, and it was a big club, and I was just that as soon as I heard they were interested, I was desperate to go.
Yeah, massive club, and it led to you having the best season, best couple of seasons really of your career. 3 goals in your first half season with Forest, again scoring against Birmingham. But the season that went so well for you, 51 appearances I've got written down here, 12 goals as well. Everything just seemed to go right for you. From the outside looking in, you look fit, you didn't have any injuries, and clearly the confidence was there as well. So was it just the perfect mix for you?
Yeah, I think that perfect mix, really. I think the fact with my shins, the injections had sort of done their work and allowed me to, so I didn't have any problems from that front. And I'd kept myself really fit, while I was playing for Huddersfield in the Premier League, and I'd started a few games going into when I signed for Forest. So I was going in, feeling fit and feeling strong, and it was at that point it was just simply about confidence, and that was probably the only doubt in my mind of, what level am I? I haven't played regular Championship football for sort of 2 years, and am I good enough and things like that. I just remember, I think, just playing the first game or two and feeling like, oh, I'm absolutely fine, and then. So I remember that first half season was important because we weren't really playing for much, and it just allowed me to just sort of get back and play, and then I remember going into the next season sort of confident of, nailing down a place really. And we actually signed some really good wingers in that pre-season. I actually sort of thought, what's happening here? I thought I was going to sort of be playing every game, and I think I started the first game on the bench, but it all went well after that. And as you said, I felt fit and I felt strong, and things just went from strength to strength, I guess, in that season.
Yeah. Obviously, being a former Harrier, I kept a close eye on you when you went to Forest as well. One game just sticks out by a mile, and I don't know whether this will stick out for you, but a game at Villa Park was that almost the perfect game for you, apart from the fact that Forest didn't get the win, that 5-5?
Yeah, that was pretty. It was a pretty crazy game. Just the whole game itself was, I think they even scored and it got given offside about 96 minutes. So it could have even been 6-5, but it was just, frantic game. And it was weird because I didn't touch the ball that many times, but every time I seemed to touch it, it was, a goal and 4 assists. I mean, it was incredible. I've played better before because I've been involved with games where you're just touching the ball loads and you're really involved. But in terms of like productivity and things, just everything that could go right, going right. I don't think I'll ever play another game like that. And obviously I grew up as a big Villa fan and things like that. So it was a pretty special memory. And that's where I broke my foot as well the first time I played there. So it was like a nice sort of all one big circle, and going one of my worst memories to my best memories.
Yeah, I was going to say, did it mean more? Obviously, being a big Villa fan as well. I always remember the knee slide after you rifled it in from 20 odd yards. Is it weird as well? I suppose if you're as big a fan as you are of Aston Villa to score against them. Obviously, I've never been in that position, so I don't quite know how it feels mentally.
To be fair, I'm too competitive and love winning and scoring and things too much to, you know, I'm too excited, you know, just to be able to win a game. You know, I don't get how people don't when people don't celebrate against their former team. I think I don't know how people do it, because if I score, I'm just too excited.
Yeah.
So I think it was just great, just playing in front of mates and family and at a place where I've grew up watching football, and it was just more of a great feeling to be able to create a memory there, because I'm sure when I'm older, I'll go there and watch football again and be a fan, and I guess I'll always be able to sort of look down on the pitch and bore whoever I'm with that I'm that what I did. So yeah, it's pretty special.
Yeah, lots of paper talk, I think, linking you with the move to Villa. I don't know if it was that season or the season after. Was there anything in that at all?
Yeah, there was, to be fair. I think they put a bid in one of the January, where after that 5-5, but I think it got rejected. And then in the summer, when they got promoted, I spoke to them, but nothing ever really. I think the price tag put them off, to be honest. But I loved it at Forest, so I wasn't over, I didn't push or anything, or be, I was, I loved it at Forest, to be fair. I loved the lads there. Just so happy, just enjoyed my football there. So it wasn't something I was like desperately trying to force or try and or do, really. So, but yeah, there was a bit of interest, but nothing ever really come of it.
Yeah. Do you remember the price tag?
I think they wanted like 15 million. It was ludicrous. I think they wanted a lot. I don't know why. I think they signed Trezeguet for like an El Ghazi. I think almost for combined about 15 million. And I think they pretty much said that, well, we can sign so and so for 8-9 million, and Forest want you for fit. So it was a bit of a like, fair enough.
Yeah. And obviously you stay at Forest, and the goals and the appearances continue. But I remember watching the final day of that season, where, I mean, Forest blew it, didn't they? In the end, they sitting pretty seemingly in the playoffs, and then I don't know, is a collapse a fair assessment of that final game?
Yeah, it was strange. I mean, again, at important times of my career, I come back from lockdown really fit, and then within a few games, my shins flared up, and I remember Cashy getting injured as well, mate, Cash, and I think Lewis Grabban was struggling a little, and the sort of three, I guess, some of the key players from that, I think Thiago Silva as well, who'd had a great season, done something to his foot. I think suddenly all the key players that last sort of 4 or 5 games were really struggling. And I think we all played the Stoke game, even though we hadn't played, especially me and Matt Cash. I don't think we played the sort of previous couple games and stuff. And we actually didn't play. It was weird, because we had actually played a lot worse than we did. So when we played Stoke, we played a lot worse and picked up results. And it was more. It was 1-1 after about 6-5. We equalised, and we'd been in control of the game, and then suddenly, just in 5 minutes, conceded 2, and it was a bit unexplainable, really. It wasn't, it was just strange. It was just out of nowhere, really. And as I said, we weren't playing that badly, or it weren't like we were awful and we're throwing it away ourselves. It just sort of, we just give away 2 really bad goals, and then suddenly, obviously, no Swansea were they did well and they did their job or whatever. But yeah, I remember there was miscommunication on the field as well. We didn't realise we had to score for about 10, 15 minutes.
Okay.
So it was all a bit of a shit show, if I can swear. But yeah, it was pretty crazy.
No, you're allowed to swear. You're allowed to swear. Don't worry.
Pretty awful.
Yeah,
that was probably the worst day on a pitch, I'd say.
I think, were you in tears? I seem to remember. I might be completely wrong on this. I seem to remember images of, obviously, full-time images of that, of obviously all the Forest players just on their knees.
Yeah, it was just like the shock of it all, and yeah, just the unexpected. We just obviously expected to just, obviously be there. The goal difference was a big swing, and yeah, I think it was just like, yeah, the shock of it all, the embarrassment, and how's that happened, and yeah, that was pretty awful.
Again, it didn't happen the following season. I've got written down here 17th, playing during a pandemic as well, in front of empty stadiums will have been really difficult as well. The following season, a bit of a disaster under Chris Hughton, wasn't it? That start of the season, a bit of a nightmare. Steve Cooper comes in, and then just a ridiculous turnaround. I mean, talk about what Steve Cooper did to turn you into a promotion winners.
Yeah, I mean, we had good players, and people, I guess, didn't believe that because we were struggling, but we had so much quality in the side, and it was just about, it is changing. So when I say it's only about that, but tactically, we suddenly become very much on the front foot, and then just the mentality shift of realizing we're a good team and good players. And then I think once you attack teams and you're aggressive and you sort of win a couple games, that's when all the players themselves start to realize, oh, we're actually good players and we're a good team, and we just momentum, players' confidence grew, and yeah, I think just the sort of perfect recipe, and we signed some good players, and we added in January as well, and we just got stronger and stronger as the season went on.
And then obviously you get to the playoffs, Sheffield United. I mean, it was playoffs are always crazy, aren't they? I think the playoffs are probably the greatest invention ever in football, pretty much, in my opinion. I mean, it came back to the City ground, didn't it? The second leg, all level after extra time, and it goes to penalties. I was at work at 5 Live at this point, in the office watching it, and it got to the shootout. And who had the penalty to put Forest through to Wembley?
Yeah, sorry, so I take that back. That was my worst.
Okay,
moment.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that was. I'd scored every one I took for Forest. I think I took 6 previously, and then 2 for Kidderminster. So I took, or maybe 4 for Forest and 2 for Kidderminster. I'd scored every one in my career, and obviously we practiced penalties going into it. I scored every one, and then the day before, I sort of said, "Oh, do you know what? I'm just going to go down the middle and just sort of hit it and smash it hard." And then I just remember on the night, we talked about how to do our routine properly and penalty, and I remember just walking up to the penalty, and because I was naturally nervous, I then tried to combat it by sort of being like blasé about it. Oh, you're just gonna score. Yeah. I don't know why you, and just like talking to yourself while you're walking up, and I just completely almost forgot about everything. Your actual technique, like the technique, that waiting for the whistle, and just like I almost just went completely blank, and probably done one. That was probably one of the worst things I've ever done on a pit, like technically, and it was just like. So I think I'd have missed and he'd saved it, or I'd hit a penalty and hit the. I wouldn't have cared. It was just the fact that it was like it was just so bad for something that is so easy.
Yeah.
And mind blank, and I guess like in a way, the term bottle it. I mean, I'd probably
you can say
that I specifically bottled that moment by just not doing the things that I'd practiced, and as I said, like leading up, everyone was confident I was going to score because I scored every single one in training, never missed, and even after the semi-final, practicing for the final, I scored every one, and it's just that specific moment. And to be honest, we won, but it's it's probably my worst memory on a pitch. And I didn't celebrate, to be honest. I was devastated. And that sounds very selfish, but it's more just, your whole career, you build up to those moments, and then to fail as bad, as sort of emphatically as I did, that was pretty tough to take.
Yeah. Well, I was gutted for you as well. I was thinking, oh no, because I was thinking this is your moment after what had been a difficult season, I suppose, as well, because I think you hadn't probably got as much game time as you would have wanted that season as well. So you almost had that moment to write yourself in history.
Yeah, exactly. It's frustrating season personally, but not that I enjoyed last season though. It's just difficult. We played a formation. I didn't really, fit into the formation, and in football that's fine really, because in football, we're doing really well. We're winning games. Didn't really fit into the system, because we didn't play with wingers. We played like a number 10 and 2 strikers. And I was still coming off the bench for 20-30, so I still felt very much part of it, and still felt like I was trusted to come on, even if we were winning or losing. It was, I always felt like I was part of the team, and, a big part of the dressing room. So I still really enjoyed the season. But yeah, it would have been nice to have that moment to cap it off and have like a really nice memory.
Yeah. And then obviously you get to the playoff final. Ironically, it's Huddersfield that you face as well. You were on the bench, obviously, at that point. Were you expecting to feature much in that game?
Well, obviously I'd pretty much come on as a sub almost like every game. I think there weren't that many times I'd not featured. So I was definitely ready to come on. But there was also a sense of, at 1-0, there was also, subs there that probably more defensively minded and that could come on. So it was like I weren't surprised or shocked, or I weren't thinking, if we're 1-0 up, I'm not going to come on. I was ready to come on.
Yeah.
But I also knew there's potentially I'm not going to come, because the state of the game and things like that. And so there was a lot. Yeah, I was in the mindset. I was ready. I was disappointed not to get on, to at least be on the field and whatnot. But it was still like an amazing moment. And I think I still played 30 odd games last year, and I had some important moments during that run, and even contributing in the the semi-final for like the second goal and things like that. So I still felt like I'd played my part and done well for the club.
Were you expecting what was to come then? Because I just remember seeing a headline told that Joe Lolley told that he's not going to feature in the Premier League. How did that come about? I could be completely wrong in this, but I'm sure I saw something saying that basically you were told by text that you weren't going to be involved and you were to train with the kids, basically.
Yeah, it was. So I weren't sure over the summer what to do, because I wanted to get back to just playing and enjoying football again, and being part, just playing and just playing regularly, and yeah, just enjoying going out every week and playing. And I knew that wasn't going to be the case at Forest. But I sort of decided, what, Premier League, you've got a year left on your contract, go and help in, whatever way possible. And I think, I knew we'd also lose games, and there'd be changes of formation and things like that, where, like we played Liverpool in the FA Cup last year, and I played right wing and I played really well. So I still felt like I was capable of actually being able to play at the level. And it actually has turned out that they've ended up changing to formation where, I probably may have even had a chance of playing and getting minutes. But yeah, they told me, obviously, after a week of pre-season that I was, it wasn't done in the best way at all, and it wasn't, for the service I think I'd give the club. It wasn't something, I felt like I deserved in any way, and it was pretty disappointing, the whole situation, to be honest.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were unhappy with how you were treated as well. So you've obviously got to look elsewhere then. How much interest in you was there, and why did the move to Australia sort of appeal to you as much as it did?
There was obviously interest from some Championship clubs, and if I'm going to be brutally honest, nothing that just really excited me. And I love living in Nottingham, and I think I only wanted to stay where the location worked well. That was one of my big criteria. So I'd move around the corner to Sydney.
Yeah.
It was one of them where I didn't want to leave Nottingham unless it was a complete new experience and something that was so different and just a life-changing experience. I wanted to stay where I was, because I was actually very happy outside of football with my life. And I know how important, that is, because you can't always control everything that happens in football and how things go. So it's always nice to have that, your friends and your family and having that sort of lifestyle outside of football that you enjoy. So yeah, and just the options. There was plenty of Championship clubs, but it was just nothing that really excited me, and I just thought, why not just go somewhere else, completely bit random. But I've always wanted to live by the sea in good weather, and the club itself is pretty, it's a pretty big club over here. It's got the best history and stuff like that, and they're playing in a brand new stadium that that holds 40,000. So it had the football element as well. But obviously, naturally, the first thing was obviously the change of lifestyle and just doing something completely new experience.
Yeah, you look like you've got a tough gig there, Joe. It has to be said. It looks it looks really difficult. How are you settling in then on the pitch? You've got your first couple of goals as well. There's been quite a bit of noise about you, I think, as well, from the outside looking in, about your arrival as well, from a Premier League player. Is it been different to how it was at Forest? Maybe more of a bigger fish, if you like.
Yeah, it's funny, really, because obviously, from a fan's perspective and things like that, it's not as big. They have other, bigger sports, and they're trying to grow the game. So you do a lot of, media stuff that, that helps promote the game and encourage the game. And, I guess I forget that I'm not a big name at all, but like, I guess coming over from England, you are, I guess, a bigger name, and you do a lot of more media work and a lot of promotional stuff that, obviously you just don't need to do in England.
Yeah.
And especially not at Nottingham Forest, the Sky Sports or whatever, you're doing it with, the best players in the league. And I guess you've come in here, you sort of forget that you become one of those players.
Yeah.
So you do a lot more of that, but obviously you get recognised. You barely get recognised when you're out and about and stuff like that. So the lifestyle in that respect is a lot more relaxed and chilled, but then you're a bigger fish in terms of, doing a lot more media work and stuff for the league and to help promote the game.
How long do you see yourself out there for?
Being honest, as long as I'm playing football, I think I'll stay for as long as possible. I think that would be my ideal situation, would, hopefully maybe 4, 5, 6 years. I think, you never know, things could change in a 6 months, a year's time. You don't know, but yeah, I think I see myself out here for a longer time. And obviously we play less games, so I feel like you can extend your career here a little more. And not the worst lifestyle.
I was just about to say, it looks like a great way of life. Looks like a great way of life. And then, what about life after football? Have you thought about that? A lot of players sort of have plans in action. Are you someone who wants to stay in the game afterwards?
I don't see it personally. I don't give it too. I'll be honest. I really don't give it a great deal of thought. You know, I feel like I've been really lucky that I've been put in a good position through football where very lucky that financially I'm in a position where I don't have to force myself into doing things. So then it becomes a bit of more of a case of what do you want to do or what do you really feel like, and I feel like that'll come maybe more naturally as, within that maybe last year or after football, I'll just feel what I want to do rather than me going, okay, well, I'm going to do all my badges because maybe I'll be a coach or whatever. I feel like if I did that, I won't put real effort and heart and like desire into actually doing it. I'll just do it half-heartedly. Where if, I'm coming to the end or whatever and I really want to become a coach or whatever, I'll have that desire to actually go and do it and really do it properly. So yeah, I'd rather do something and give it my everything than just sort of think about something now that and in 5-6 years I might not want to do. So yeah, I'm keeping it pretty open and yeah, see what happens, I guess.
And what chance have you finishing? Sorry, Joe.
But I do love football, and I probably in some way capacity I'll do something, even if it's just managing a local side or things like just being involved in something somewhere. Yeah, I do enjoy that side of things.
A lot of fans have asked me to ask you what chance have you finishing your career at the Harriers?
Yeah, to be fair, it
Never say never. That's what they.
Yeah. You never know, and obviously the thing with Kidderminster as well is so close to home for me that it would be. Yeah, I mean, it's something that I think could easily happen. Obviously, if I'm at the level that's good enough to play, because obviously, I obviously plan to stay here longer, so I'd probably be a little bit older. So, they still need. You still have to be good enough to actually, bigger. But I think that I could easily see myself, maybe, in 4 or 5 years, and maybe coming back home and maybe even helping off the pitch and or whatever in some way be maybe a nice way to finish and a sort of full circle back to where it all started.
Great. I'll save this little clip. I'll save it, and in 5 years' time, I'll bring it back out again. We'll finish, Joe, with some questions, just some sort of random questions that some people have thrown my way. Mainly Harriers focused. Best player that you played with during your time at Kiddy?
Oh, it's a good one. Do you know what? I think just all round enjoy playing like Carl Storer as a person on the pitch, sort of set the examples and leader, and he's a good all round footballer. Could do everything, and yeah, he was a good all round player. Shay Dunkley, you sort of could see the potential. He was so strong, so dominant. Very good at. To be honest, he was a lot of good players, but I think Kyle for his just all round and the fact he was a really good player and a great guy off the pitch and yeah.
Favorite Harriers goal? You've got 11 to choose from.
The Peterborough one for the overall. I love the Halifax one.
Yeah.
But the Peterborough one for the overall moment.
Favorite Harriers game then, which I imagine would probably be the same answer.
Yeah, I'd say so. But I did enjoy just like some of the games we played at home. I remember we beat like Tamworth. I think we beat them like
5-3, I think it was, yeah.
5-3, like games like that, especially when you're an attacking player. Like I remember, like I enjoyed those games. Newport County, I think Wrexham at home. I remember those games stick out as like pretty good games as well.
Yeah, you mentioned about being in a fortunate position financially to, sort of pick and choose. You don't have to reveal this, but can you remember your first paycheck as a professional footballer at Harriers? Can you remember what you got?
I was on £275 a week with a £50 goal bonus. So I maybe scored. Maybe scored in the first month, maybe in August. Yeah. So you'll probably have to do the maths, but I don't know, maybe like 1,100-ish, 1,200.
Yeah.
I thought I was a very rich man.
Well, I will not be cheeky and ask you how does that compare to how things are now, but yeah, I imagine how much pride did you have then in opening that first paycheck as a professional footballer?
Yeah, it was. I just loved playing football. That like it was just great to obviously be able to earn and I still lived at home, so obviously you're not even paying any.
Yeah.
I guess any out to things and rent, and I couldn't drive at the time, so car. So I guess it felt like I had the full money, and yeah, it was just a lot of my mates worked as well, just normal jobs. So it's nice to be able to actually go out. Before I was just a student and sort of had to live very carefully, and then it was nice to be able to go out and enjoy and not worry too much about like that. So yeah, it was pretty good.
Just a couple of other career-based ones. Best player you've played with and best player against?
With probably Aaron Moy with, and he was just brilliant. And against there's a lot of, there was some really
yeah,
some really like we played I guess like we played against like Van Dijk last year, players like that I think played like Man City when it was like De Bruyne, Sane, Sterling, Aguero. But I think like a random one when we played that West Ham game, Lanzini and Arnautovic they were unbelievable in that game. So for like a little bit of a rogue answer, those two were for like, because you forget how good players are when even the ones who maybe aren't world class, still how good those players are. So those two are good.
Yeah, and you mentioned West Ham. It's just triggered obviously something. Did you see our cup game against West Ham?
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, pretty special.
Yeah, it's a heartbreaker as well. Last one then, Joe, and thank you for spending so much time with us as well. It's just leaving the floor open to you, really. What would you like to say to those Harriers fans? It was obviously a short time with us, but you're obviously so fondly remembered. So what would your parting message to them be?
Just to thank them, I guess, for obviously the time I was there, and I know since then, there's been fans that have followed my career and always wished me well, and I've seen in even randomly in public who I've spoke to before, and I guess to be there such a short time and be remembered so well, it's such a nice feeling, and yeah, just to appreciate everyone who gives me nice comments and I guess still follows my career, and yeah, never know I guess what could happen in the future, but yeah, just thank you,
Joe. It's been brilliant. Thank you so much. All the best at Sydney. I'm really happy that all the Sydney highlights are on YouTube, so we can keep a close eye on how your career is going. So thank you, and we look forward to seeing you back at Agborough in the red and white in 5 years' time?
Fingers crossed.
Cheers, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.